Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today is episode 410 of Daily Global Insights, and with me is my co-host Sridhar Sityalaji. Sridharji, Namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel. How are you, sir?
Namaskar. Very, very early good morning to you, Sriji. I'm doing good. And
So,
over to you.
sorry, sir. I thought you were going to say something, and then I think I said something and you stopped. It's okay. Viewers, we are going to start with the markets. Yesterday, the markets had a bloodbath in the United States. Let's take a quick look at market before we go into the G20, into the headwinds India is facing. Sir, take it away.
Well, I think the markets were down yesterday because there is a clear expectation or prediction in the markets that the rates are rising. Remember, every day we have been saying the rates have been increasing, inching from 3.5% and 3.7, 3.8. Yesterday it touched close to 4%. With unemployment not ticking down, we are very much moving past and expecting a 50 basis point hike by the Fed. Fed statement is expected today. We had said yesterday in our DGI that I expect the interest rates to be somewhere between 5 to 5.25%, and market analysts are predicting a harder landing relative to softer landing. This is what drove the turmoil in the markets yesterday.
I apologize, sir. Today I have to do all the editing also myself, so bit of a coordination issue here. Sridharji, let's take a look at India. The G20 summit coming up in India. Looks like people are asking India to talk about sanctions on Russia, and India is sort of saying, not really. Is this a move to embarrass India, or is it just these things get discussed normally? Because the previous G20 also, they were wondering if Xi Jinping was going to come or if Russia was going to come. Russia, I think, stayed away from that one.
No, I think last G20 was in Jakarta, in Indonesia. Foreign Minister Foreign Minister Lavrov was present at that meeting. He boycotted the session which discussed about the condemnation, which obviously everybody didn't do, of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Jokowi, the Indonesian president, was requested not to bring Xi Jinping and invite Russia, but both were invited and they were at the summit. No, this objective is not to embarrass, but they're trying in every forum, which is usually the case, to show unanimity in terms of G7 has done it, EU has done it, some of the respective nations have done it, the blocs have done it, but the G20 thus far has abstained from doing it. And I think that they're saying that doing more sanctions doesn't work. It has not worked thus far.
And France is now taking India's side in this conflict, and it's saying that you should use your good offices to try and resolve the conflict. Sridharji, this is a big one because France has been sort of sidelined. If you remember the AUKUS Treaty, AUKUS, where the French submarines were dumped by Australia in favor of United States and then software from United Kingdom. So this is the new alignment again, sir, where France is now leaning towards India.
No, I think Sriji, I think I wouldn't want to stretch that far. France is trying to align every way possible. France, the countries which have very close proximity to India include France, Israel, Russia. To some extent, you have to also add United States. So Japan, for that matter. So countries are trying to persuade India, to see whether you can come in and intervene. And this is what is causing the Indian journalists to jump up and say, is Modi going in search of a Nobel Prize? Modi is a very, very articulate and clever, smart man. He's not going to dip his finger. That's all this agenda is about. But France has always been with India, Sriji. We know that, yeah?
All-weather friend. Next question, sir, for you is there is now in United States as well as in Russia, there are two different versions of the war being portrayed by either Biden or Putin. Putin also has walked away from the nuclear treaty. Could this also have been a reason for the markets to fall yesterday, sir?
No, markets have nothing to do with geopolitical tensions that is, traversing. In fact, okay, I'll respond to the question. So Biden says the act of war against Ukraine is illegal, and this is not something that Russia must pursue. And we will prevail, and we will continue to support Ukraine to the end. So this is his position in his speech in Warsaw, looking at the Eastern Bloc of nations. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, correct, Tuesday, while addressing his nation, Putin said, there was an imminent threat of attack on Crimea. There has been issues in Ukraine. So we have no choice but to wage a war. We have suffered 3 major losses, but we have also occupied or gained 20% of the territory which legitimately belongs to Russia. So therefore, you have these 2 different diametrically opposite views coming out of, on the same day, coming out of Europe.
Well, there is one interesting development here. We've talked about this in the past. See, Crimea relies on its water from the Donetsk River. There is one river that comes through. And I think Ukraine might be eyeing that, because once you control that, you control the entire area of Crimea. Let's wait and see what happens, because this is what Putin says, is that Crimea is going to be the next target of Ukraine. And Ukraine has been saying something to that effect also. So that is now becoming more and more the theater of operations. Let's wait and see how it plays out. Sridharji, thank you so much for that clarification. Let's move on to the next line item. Biden administration has ceded control to WHO over US pandemic response. What happened, sir? Fauci got a job as WHO director or something?
I think that, we are now very proud woke army nation. So therefore, what we do when you are a woke, you kind of you move the needle to the most incompetent point. So imagine, Center for Disease Control failed in as far as COVID is concerned. Now what they do? They move it to WHO, which is even further the totem pole in terms of failure. And the WHO to determine how the pandemic has to be managed in United States. I mean, can you believe this? I've never seen anything like this before. So obviously Republicans are going to oppose it steadfast. And this is a very, very unfortunate development, Sriji.
Well, it's basically locking the barn gate after the horse has fled the farm, in my opinion, because the 2022 Senate elections were the place where the Republicans should have made a stand and made sure that they get the majority there also. And that is the opportunity lost. Now, in fact, Democrats have actually gained, I think, 2 seats in Senate. And that is where the problem is. And God save America. That's all I can say. There was a verdict yesterday, very, very unpleasant one in Seattle. Of course, Seattle is Seattle. We cannot apply that to the rest of the country. I'm going to talk about that in a separate monologue. Let's not waste Sridharji's time on that, because we all know where these things are headed. Unfortunately, not in the right.
Indian Americans, socialism of Indian American flag. Okay, this is not an American. They know nothing about this. This is the socialization of Indian American diaspora of United States. They're not going to stop. They're going to move forward. And there's a large chunk of them living in United States. Close to 72% of the Indian Americans carry the woke flag.
72%. I didn't know that number, sir. Where did you get that?
I have my sources, Sriji.
This is the bulwark of the people. The rest 28 are busy working. They don't have time to respond to the other 72%'s rants, I suppose. But anyway, I am here. I will rant. I don't have a problem ranting, except that I'm walking around with a target painted on my back. Many of the sessions that I attend now, I'm drawing some of these lumpians also, coming and listening to what we are strategizing. So anyway, this is going to be an interesting fight moving forward. Let's wait and see how that plays out. So an interesting development. Vivek Ramaswamy has thrown his hat in for United States president. Sir, walk us through. This guy is about, I think, in mid 30s or probably early 40s, something like that. What do you think his position would be? I mean, this is a crowded Republican ring already. Where do you think his candidacy is going to go? He's just testing the waters, or
Very proud Indian American,
yes?
37-year-old from Kerala, second generation American, very smart man. He worked in GE in Ohio, and he comes with biomedical. He has floated a number of companies and successfully exited. And so he is a biotech tech entrepreneur with very strong and clear views. And in fact, they call him the CEO of Anti-Woke Inc.
Yes, indeed. And viewers, when he get a chance, whenever he comes on CNN or other channels, and of course, we are going to try and get him to come on our channel also. Very articulate man. In my opinion, one of the most articulate people from the Republican side. And this is going to be a challenge for the others. They will have to step up to his rhetoric, his enunciation, and his articulation. So this is going to be a very interesting primaries as things move forward. I don't know how much of his personal wealth he's going to spend doing this. Essentially, running for president is expensive these days. And unless you are like a Trump who said, okay, on a whim, I'm going to show this guy, I'm going to teach Obama a lesson. You all know why he decided to run for president, I suppose. We have talked about this in the past. So, good luck to Vivek Ramaswamy, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I've been certainly impressed by the way he takes so little time to arrive at the crux of the matter. Thank you very much, sir, on that.
So
Let's move on.
Shriji, I'll take 30 seconds to tell you just quickly.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
First and foremost, is the first presidential candidate who said merit is the criteria for immigration that should be the only criteria for bringing people into United States. So therefore, he's the first presidential candidate. Second, which is very important, he has taken, like Trump, but even gone further, which is to say we should not be trading with China in longer term. It hurts and disrupts United States. He's very bold and very brave to take that second stance. Even further, he has taken a stance against what we call ESG, environment, sustainability, and what they call the governance, which is nothing but wokeism being corporatized in United States. He is anti-ESG. The usual culprits fund the ESG agenda. And so these are very important messages that he is going to deliver. Whether he emerges as a candidate or not, Americans will hear this message from him.
Absolutely, sir. And viewers, I'd encourage you to go back and watch one hangout I did with Dr. Shiva Ayadurai about this whole physics or science of the ozone layer. Is there a static layer? Is it an elastic layer? Does it contract or expand? He had some very different theories from what you normally hear on the street. This climate change, according to him, was something like a ruse, which if you use that word and wrote a proposal, you got funded. That was how for last 15, 20 years people have been getting funding. So this funding is a result of which they're coming out with all these reports. According to Dr. Shiva Ayadurai, the ozone layer is elastic. And go back and look at his video and also ponder on the fact that 10,000 years ago in United States, the whole world went through an ice age. What pollution was there at that point of time? Why did it have to go through that? So there are things that we don't understand about nature. Nature will assert itself. In fact, the other interesting thing, Sridharji, is happening is the core inside the earth is now beginning to slow down, and it's actually might start rotating the other way. We don't know if that's going to change some of the gravitational forces. So we wait till we hear from various pundits on this one. This is a very interesting development also. Sir, have you heard that one about the core turning the other way?
No,
It's scary, sir. Think about it. It was going like this. Now it's going to go like this. So we don't know.
You do a lot of research on these topics, G. So therefore, thank you. Thank you for enlightening all the P Guru viewers on this, Shriji.
and Italian Prime Minister is on a visit to India, and they are talking about having defense cooperations between Italy and India. And India and Israel are also keen on finalizing a free trade agreement to further enhance bilateral ties. That I see as a significant development, Sridharji.
It is. It is on the back of the Haifa port. They have mentioned that specifically they welcome. They want more involvement of India. So therefore, despite Hindenburg report, I think Mr. Adani is going to get more access to refining and other kinds of, because they have quite a few off the shelf just outside of between the Israel and Lebanese waters. So therefore, I think you're going to see. Remember, we covered again in DGI. There's a trilateral agreement which is to take it about 10 to 50, I mean, not 10 to 50, about close to $100 billion of trade and commerce between India, UAE, and Israel corridor. That was signed when Benjamin Netanyahu was the prime minister last time. Now he has come back and is rejigging the journey with his very good friend, Prime Minister Modi.
Thank you, sir. Would you like me to put up those charts? We talked about it yesterday about foreign currency. Here we go.
Yeah, no, not foreign currency. You first put this. Okay.
Yeah.
So people have asked me the question, which is namely, the deficit with Russia is growing because it is. The deficit, which was $2.6 billion in 2021, has probably grown to about somewhere close to $8-9 billion. First data point is very simple. The single trick pony in Russia, the imports from Russia is oil. Now, the reason why we put this chart up is if you look at the oil consumption in Indian rupees billions, you can see the trend line from 2011 to 2022. Now, if you look at the 2016 to 2018 or even up to 2019, are going up to 20, these are the golden years of when the oil prices in 2016, 2017 were around the $50 per barrel, when India harnessed it and invested social capital into the economy, even going up to 2018. This was also the period 2017, 2018, 2019, when United States give discounted crude, which India refined and also started to earn export money. Okay, now you come to 2021, why the number dipped? COVID, shutdowns, less consumption. 2022, the oil has jumped from $50 to about 80, 84, and even in February 2022, we had $120. So when India looks at the net cost, it is not increasing the consumption. It is saying, it is in finance, we call it as shifting the cost. So if I'm importing more at a higher cost from Iraq, I'm going to shift it to Russia, which is giving me a 30% discount on the same price. So India is managing the balance sheet very well. It's not worried about the growing deficit with Russia. This is what we wanted to present, which is to say that the Russian deficit doesn't bother India. Russian deficit will bother India when it is actually importing more other types of commodities without exporting anything back. This is the single message we wanted to deliver. And as Rajagopalanji said, Modi is a Gujubai. He knows how to maintain and cut his costs. So they are doing it in a very smart manner.
Sir, this is the India's currency conversion rate with respect to the US dollar. And here we are talking about from today or tomorrow all the way up to 9 months. And then I'll put the chart for the 10, 11, and 12. So please take it away.
So we gave you the forward rates. What would, with the volatility and other things in the markets, what band that INR will trade? And I said yesterday, we said that it'll be in that 82.90, 82.70 kind of a band for the rest of the year. It's not going to go to 85. That we haven't seen, at least by looking at the forward markets today. So therefore, if you take a look, if you're looking at what the forward rate looks like for 9 months from today, it is still at 82.91. That is 82.91 is the ask, 82.89 is the bid. So you are beginning to see that it is following a pattern. So therefore, to answer Mr. Chidambaram's question, which is how is India going to manage? They are going to tell that she will show Nirmala Sitharaman. She will show. Look at the currency charts. It doesn't talk about any volatility that you are talking about. Now you go to year 10th month, 11th month, 1 year. So you are beginning to see a consistent pattern. So I did one more thing. I said, what does the Indian INR will look like as its economy moves from somewhere between $5 trillion to closer to, it's not going to cross 10 trillion by 2030. If you are betting on INR, believe it or not, the projection for 2030 is INR at 70.
70, 7,
70.
70. So it's going to be an appreciation of about 15% or something like that. Very good.
Appreciation of 15%, which shows that there is trust in the Indian economy and the markets. The markets are saying this is not Turkey, this is not any other nation. They are managing their economy very well. That's a big kind of a tick.
Absolutely, sir. And there are actually other pundits who have come on my channel and said that there will be by 2047, I think, $1 is equal to 3 Indian rupees. That is 25 years from now. $1 is equal to 3 Indian rupees. In 1947, it was $1 is equal to, I think, 4 Indian rupees. So, somewhere in that ballpark, that will be an amazing achievement if that can be done. However, any of these things has to be a gradual slope so that the MSMEs can adjust to the changing conditions. So that's what that is. Now let's move on to the next item, sir. Let's take a look at what is happening in Europe. As Putin prepares to meet top Chinese representatives in Moscow and suspends the nuclear agreement, Biden will meet the Eastern members on Wednesday. And Eastern members are Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. And the Russian missiles are hitting Ukrainian city of Kharkiv as the war of words continue. I thought Kharkiv was a done deal as far as Ukraine was concerned, sir.
You remember that we again projected a chart. They took out small parts of the Kharkiv territory and they were moving into Kharkiv. When that began to happen, when Russia suffered losses, this is one of 3 big losses that they suffered. They shifted their battlefield to the eastern region, effectively to take charge of the, as you pointed out, Dnipro River, which is in the Donetsk, which cuts across and which will Ukraine, which will effectively go all the way towards once they take over, Ukraine can't cross into the other region. Anyway, so therefore, so what is this agenda? The agenda is, again, Biden is revving up the Eastern blocs, which is to say all these countries are present. When you look at the countries that Sriji mentioned, they are in many ways part of the old Soviet Union or the Russian bloc. Okay, maybe Poland is Eastern bloc, but when you look at Latvia, Lithuania, etc., Estonia, or Slovakia, Slovakia is part of the Yugoslavia. So when you look at some of these countries, they're all the old Eastern regime. They are afraid that they are in the target list. So therefore, they are all willing to put boots and arms to be ready to fight the Russians.
So still a lot of churn going on in Russia, and everybody, I think 6 months ago, had written off Russia saying that they're not going to be, they're just going to be licking their wounds. I think they've been proven wrong, myself included. But war is not a good thing, and I agree with Modi when he says that, don't have war. You should be able to settle these things without having to go to war. I think that is the important takeaway there. So let's move on to the next topic, which is Macron is going to host Zelensky and German Chancellor Scholz on Wednesday in Paris. Zelensky visited UK earlier on Wednesday and will be in Brussels on Thursday. So Zelensky is in UK, Brussels, and then Paris. Walk us through what he is going through his mind, sir.
What Zelensky is saying is that for me to sustain and win this battle, I need 2 things. I need game-changing equipment, which is tanks, planes, fighter jets, when I say planes, and ability to take out drones. The UK Prime Minister has promised at least 2 of them, aid as well as the support to the army. Macron is hosting the meet with Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, where they will be discussing the strategy and equipment that they need to supply to Ukraine to sustain the war. And he carries the same message. He will be going the same message to Brussels, which is the EU headquarters, besides his EU membership. So this is the reason why, while Macron wants Modi to have a resolution, he is hosting a meeting the next day, which is today in Europe, to the conduct of war. So they want to push the resolution process to somebody while they continue to group together and sustain this war.
Next, in Asia news, Australia and Philippines discuss joint patrols in South China Sea. Sridharji, this has been being done in some limited fashion, right? Is this going to mean enhanced patrols, sir?
I think if you recall, we had mentioned that there are three important developments. First and foremost, we mentioned that there was this laser jet by the Chinese Coast Guard
on Philippines,
Philippines, when they were trying to send supplies to their military base for replenishment, and the Philippines didn't like it. That's number one. Number two, we also mentioned that they are repositioning and testing their training with these BrahMos missiles that India has supplied. And the third is today's development, where around the Scarsbury Shoals area, you will be seeing these exercises being conducted with an aim to make sure that any deterrence, that they can be well prepared to deal with it.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's take a look at what's the next item here. 1 second. Jokowi seeks capital from China for its new capital. Jokowi is Indonesia, right?
Jokowi is Indonesian president. So this is where, polarization and divide and rule kind of going on. I mean, Jokowi says, I need money for Nusantara, which is the new capital coming up. By the way, I also will be supporting in the Bandung area to be part of the Belt and Road Initiative. And number three, you build, technical parks for the green zone to be in Kalimantan area. So therefore, okay, you invite China and you really have a problem.
Yes, indeed, sir. I was trying to put some comments, but they kind of lapsed because these came about 15 minutes ago. My apologies. I didn't mean to distract you, sir. Let's take a look at the next line item before we finish up. Japan and China meet for the first time for 2+2 discussions amidst balloon and other issues. Taiwan Foreign Minister Joseph Wu and U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman hold talks. Taiwan tracks 11 military aircraft and 2 naval ships around the country. I have one more news item about India. Please stay tuned. Please go ahead, sir.
So I think this Wendy Sherman Joseph Wu meeting is very significant. So you can see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in Europe, and you can see State Department, including Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State. So the deputy is keeping an eye and kind of continuing to focus on Taiwan. This is a grand democratic strategy in terms of focus on foreign policy when the domestic issues are burning. By the way, there is no support for Ukraine war, and there is growing dissent within United States for United States getting entangled into the Ukraine war and spending the precious money rather than inside. So you have this foreign policy. Yesterday we covered Joseph Schumer visiting with a delegation to India. So
Chuck
it looks
Schumer,
like Chuck Schumer. Sorry. So I think you can see that there's a grand foreign policy agenda at play, having failed on all other fronts domestically.
Did a Chinese spy balloon go over the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in January 2022? That's the question. And with that, we'll be ending tonight, sir. Please, your thoughts on that. Did India cite it? Did India shoot it down? I don't think India shot it down. What really played out, sir?
Well, I think it looks like they certainly cited the balloon, and apparently some of the other people did. And now they're indicating it probably had, metallic propeller antennas. It is the home of the Indian naval base. Remember, if there has to be a blockade across Malacca Straits, this is the base that will play a significant part in that. it was around the same time, I'm told, that the Tri-Forces conducted
Exercises, yes.
exercises around the same time. So it's quite significant that these are effectively spy balloons which are going around under the pretext of science and research.
Yes, indeed. And well, we have to wait and see what happens from that. Viewers, we have one request to make. We are trying to make this thing happen at 7 p.m. IST, and we're getting tremendous response. Today's viewership was higher than yesterday's, so thank you so much for that. We would like to continue this. Sometimes we are limited by the technology of where we are located, internet connectivity, the sound around us. Sometimes the sound can echo. Please bear with us. I mean, our intent is to give you the best quality news possible in the limited time that you spare for us, and we are doing our best to try and make these things right. Sridharji is a very busy man. He travels the whole world. That's why I call him Ulagam Sutrum Valiban, which means the young man who traverses the world. So this is going to change in a few days when he's back at his headquarters. But until then, there will be a little bit of up and down like this. Please bear with us. Thanks once again. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Reggie. Continue your good message and be waving the flag for what we call as the meritocracy and the right way rather than the woke way, Sriji.
Absolutely, sir. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's wait and see how things. We are not going to show all our cards at this time. So we will do this thing as it happens. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Everybody. Thank you so much for supporting us, and have a great day or great evening.